We do have a Finance Committee report.
There was not a finance committee. There's only one thing that the finance committee would be considered, and that's on the consent agenda tonight, so there was not a meeting.
Okay. The Nonprofit Committee met in May. They received 32 applications for grants, and this evening we will be voting on 13 recipients of the not-for-profit grants, and so that is further down in the agenda. The Health Department report is, there's a link to that department report. And then we're going to move on. There is no council business today, and now we're going to approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Pete Peterson, second by John Weingart. All those in favor say aye.
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 It's Bill online.
And,
Bill's online.
and okay, one denial from Bill.
No, Bill's online. He was yes.
Oh, he's a yes? I
Yeah, but
heard
he's
no.
online.
You're a yes, Bill? I'm sorry, there's like an echo here. Okay, the agenda, consent agenda passes, thank you. We're moving on to the regular agenda. We do not have anything under budget and finance this evening, so we're moving on to item 10 under government and miscellaneous. We're gonna look at 041524B. It's a request to amend chapter 50 of the City of Fishers Code of Ordinances dealing with garbage, trash, and refuse, and this is the third reading on this.
Good evening, Council. Lindsay Bennett, Corporation Counsel. I'm honored to be giving the first presentation in the new auditorium here. I'm here for a third reading of the ordinance, just making those changes that were requested last meeting, specifically in proposed section 50.04, changing the hours of garbage collection to be outside of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. in residentially zoned areas or in commercially zoned areas whose trash and recycling containers are within 600 feet of a property used for residential purposes. Change that 400 feet that was originally proposed to 600 feet, and then change that language from residentially zoned area to property used for residential purposes, which is how it's used throughout the UDO as well. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from city council members?
I just have a comment. Lindsay, please make when you're presenting that you're wearing your highest heels on the frame.
Can't see.
Yeah, I might have to scooch to the side.
That 600 feet would be measured from the property line of a lot to the trash dumpster?
Yes.
Okay, to the trash dumpster, okay.
Yes.
And could you restate the times again?
It would be unlawful for collection between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Pete Peterson, second by Tiffany Detlefson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. Motion passes.
Okay, we need to do a roll call vote.
Since Bill's virtual, we'll have to do a roll call vote.
Oh, okay, thank you for the reminder. Okay, go ahead, please, Jennifer.
John Weingart,
Aye.
Cecilia Coble,
Aye.
Pete Peterson,
Yes.
Brad DeRamer,
Aye.
Selena Stoller,
Aye.
Todd Zimmerman,
Aye.
Tiffany Detlefson,
Aye.
sorry, Bill Stewart. Thank you.
Great, motion passes. Thank you very much. We're moving on to item 11, R061724E. This is a request to adopt and allocate funds for an outdoor fitness center as part of the 2024 National Fitness Campaign.
Good evening, Council. Jake Reardon McSoley, Director of Recreation and Wellness with the City of Fishers. Excited tonight to present for your consideration a resolution, as Board President said, to adopt and allocate funds for an outdoor fitness campaign, fitness court. To give you a little bit of context for what this project entails, I brought a couple slides just to share some images and some background here. We feel very fortunate. Earlier this year, we were handpicked as a partner community for this particular National Fitness Campaign Outdoor Fitness Court initiative. They have a organization that's been around since the late 70s, and they've created really kind of the world's best outdoor fitness equipment with a goal of providing fitness for free to all Americans. We were fortunate to apply and then get awarded a grant of $30,000. That would be for a fitness court install in 2025. Just to kind of share a little bit about what this looks like, it's a 38 by 38 square piece of property. It provides functional fitness, body weight fitness opportunities. It's progressive. It's really good for anyone on whatever fitness level, age, or ability they may be. And it's designed to be accessible for all ages, abilities, and fitness levels. One thing that we got really excited about is it's not just a piece of equipment that you allow to kind of sit there and people to kind of wonder how it's used. There's actual images and then QR codes on all the fitness equipment that links straight to a library with hundreds of activities, challenges, workouts led by experts. They also, free of charge, include not only access to this app, but instructor trainings to do group exercise classes on the court. And it is really aligned with where we're trying to go as a city with our culture of health in Fishers. It's, we think, a great quality of life amenity to our residents. And it is a court that's warranted and will last for decades, we think, here in the community. Just to give you a timeline, tonight we're presenting for your approval the resolution. This is not a final approval by any means. It will then be included in our 2024 budget, and that would be kind of the next level of approval. If it is still approved there, then in December we would receive equipment and store that, and then as soon as weather breaks in spring, probably sometime in March, we would start pouring a pad and installing the equipment and have a great unveiling campaign and communication campaign to the community. What questions can I answer?
Jake, I have a quick question, and forgive me if I missed it. Where are we looking to put this pad?
We've narrowed it down. Get on the microphone. We've narrowed it down to 3 locations. The final location hasn't been decided yet. That's one of the steps that the National Fitness Campaign works with. They have a very set steps that you take through the next several months, and they actually use data for connectability with pedestrians, visibility, and also accessibility to all residents. And so we've got it narrowed down to 3. We'd be happy to report back when we get a final selection made, but we haven't determined that yet.
Why wouldn't we put it where the community center's going? It's dead center.
What, I couldn't.
The community center?
Community center?
Yeah, why wouldn't we put it there?
Well, we talked about that, and I think it would be a great phase 2 if we were to. A lot of communities are doing these more than one phase and more than one throughout a community. Right now, there's over 200 of these across the country. We would be the 5th in Indiana, and so we actually contemplated that along with probably 2 or 3 other locations. But as it stands right now, there's not enough connectability or visibility today. We won't even open the community center until October 2025. Very well could be if we do a second one.
So I spent some time in Miami, and I know when you walk the trail and the boardwalk, there's lots of these outdoor gyms and fitness equipment. I avoid them, but I see them. I think it's a good thing.
Fair enough.
Jake, will this be available 24 hours a day at any time for residents to use, or is there gonna be like a set only during, daylight hours, or?
That's a fair question. We haven't honestly gotten far enough to determine if we're going to have kind of a dawn to dusk policy like our parks, or if we would be enforcing that. And it likely would kind of be determined by the location as well. If it was, safe somewhere for 24 hours, potentially it could be, but we certainly haven't talked through that quite yet. That's a fair question.
Any additional questions, Selena?
I have one. You stated that there's an app with it. Is there a membership fee with the app, or is the app free?
No, that's the best part about this entire program is that everything is free. The equipment is free to residents. The app is free to residents. Our goal would be to, work with instructor trainings and provide classes free to residents. So it's 100% free.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the resolution? Motion by Pete Peterson, second by Selena Stoller. I guess roll call vote, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
John Weingart.
Aye.
Cecilia Coble.
Aye.
Pete Peterson.
Yes.
Brad DeReamer.
Aye.
Selena Stoller.
Aye.
Todd Zimmerman,
Aye.
Tiffany Diplison,
Aye.
Bill Stewart.
Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. We'll move on to item 12. This is R061724F. It's a request to approve the nonprofit grant awards, and Lindsay Bennett will be giving the information on that this evening.
Good evening again, Council. Lindsay Bennett, Corporation Counsel. As you are likely aware, the nonprofit committee met back in May and had reviewed the applications that were submitted for the nonprofit grant. As President Coble mentioned, I think there were 32 applications, and the nonprofit committee found 13 organizations that they would like to give grants to, and those grants are Hamilton County Youth Assistance Program in the amount of $65,000, Youth Mentoring Initiative in the amount of $45,000, Conner Prairie Museum in the amount of $55,000, Indiana Center for Prevention of Youth Abuse and Suicide in the amount of $3,000, Humane Society of Hamilton County in the amount of $5,000, Indiana Parkinson Foundation in the amount of $5,500, Outside the Box in the amount of $10,000, Hamilton Southeastern Education Foundation, $10,000, Same as You, $10,000, Recovery Cafe, $12,500, Advocates for Children and Families Doing Business as Cherish Center, $24,000, Hand Inc., $4,000, and Stillwater's Adult Day Center in the amount of $6,000. So tonight we're just here asking for council's approval of those awards, and then they will go back to the organizations for them to sign a contribution agreement, which will go to the Board of Public Works before the money is dispersed.
Thank you, Lindsay. Are there any questions by council members?
How many of the groups have the majority of the people they serve, or those not-for-profits, serve Fishers residents?
That is a great question for the committee.
Again, Lindsay, I don't expect you to have the answer. I'm going to be opposed to this, and I'm going to say it again, and I know you guys are going to get sick of it, but I'm going to say it each and every year. It is not our job to give away tax dollars to not-for-profits. I am absolutely okay, and I would sign on for those groups who serve majority of Fishers residents. We are allocating tax dollars to not-for-profit organizations. That's not our job, okay? I looked at the distributions. If I had a choice, I'd cut probably 8 of them off. It has nothing to do with the not-for-profit. I think all of them are great groups. I think they serve great purposes, and I have no issues with what they do. My issue, again, is it's not our job as city council to spend taxpayer dollars on not-for-profit. So I'm going to be vehemently against this.
So, Councilman Peterson, I wanted to share with you at our meeting, President Coble was very, very purposeful about the nonprofits that we selected. In fact, she asked to set up a separate group, a separate committee, because there were so many people asking for money for food pantries. And from those applications that we received, we determined that there could possibly be food insecurity issues in Fishers that are going unmet. So I think having those nonprofit requests come in and getting a sense for the needs that people see in the community, and then having a broader conversation about what food insecurity looks like in Fishers. I think that's something really good that came out of this process. We held back money from funding those food pantries because we didn't have a sense that that they were serving the broad community, to your point. So that was something that we were very, very purposeful about looking at entities that are serving the community. The grid that we received, it showed the number of people that they serve in the community, how much this grant is relative to their budget. And so we were really, really purposeful to not fund nonprofits where the grant that they got from the city was the major part of their revenue coming in. So we were very, very purposeful with finding those groups that support people within our city. So I've heard your voice in the background a lot, and it's like, how would Pete react to this? And so we were very purposeful. We will have a committee that will look at food insecurity. We are trying to do what we can with the money that the mayor has allocated.
And Tiffany, I appreciate that. So from the standpoint of food insecurity, then you need to bring in both of the township trustees in here to talk about that. You need to bring in the churches which are doing that. Again, I was on that committee all the way until this year. I know everything which is going on there, discussions which are going on. My opinion will not change. Nowhere can anybody tell me in our ordinances, in the state constitution, in the US Constitution, that it's my job to allocate taxpayer dollars to a not-for-profit entity. And that's where I'm standing, period.
Pete, I respect your opinion. We all know where you stand. We really did make a very deep dive into this, and what Tiffany's talking about, there actually is going to be a coalition or group that's going to meet. All the trustees are going to meet with all the churches that are wanting to start food pantries and ones that already exist, and getting all of these people together to make sure there's no duplication of services, inefficiencies. There's a lot of people doing the same thing, and they're not really working with the trustees, that they are kind of the first in line and really determining what are the real needs in terms of food insecurity and other things here in Fishers. So that is going on, and that's what our committee
That's not what we
recommended.
allocate any of the dollars to, though.
We didn't allocate anything that
$0
any
to
of the
Right.
food pantries or anything like that. But we did allocate for mental health, the seniors, people that have disabilities. You know, I think it's a very broad and very well thought out group of organizations that are doing this. So anyway, are there any other?
Yeah, when I was on the committee, we had the rule, because I worked with you on that one, that they had to serve the majority of Fishers, or we didn't even consider, didn't even interview. So is that the same thing that has continued?
They do, plus there are a few organizations that, for whatever reason, they aren't in Fishers, but they serve Fishers. There are a lot of organizations that are helping the Fishers community, but they're located in other cities. So the other thing that we are allocating money for is for galas or events such as the Humane Society. They do a yearly event. All the cities contribute to a sponsorship, so we included that in the allocation this year in the application. Do you want us to be a sponsor to your event? And so we looked at organizations that are making an impact, such as the Humane Society and different organizations that all the cities support in Hamilton County.
So that gets me to another point then, Cecilia. Scott, do we still have a budget line item for AIM and the county stuff and those things? If the council wants to go to a gala for the, what do you call it? We can vote to go to the gala for anything we want to go to, as long as we don't exceed that budget line item. Why is it coming out of not tax dollars to go ahead and do that on a not-for-profit basis? This whole thing to me makes 0 sense. I mean, it should take about 2 minutes to decide who is the majority serving the Fishers residents and lock it down. I mean, I just, you know, look, I love the Humane Society. I'm on one of their ancillary boards, but I'm going to tell you right now, Rebecca is charges harder than anybody I've ever seen in my life. And the police department is also going over there quite a bit, but they are serving the majority of Hamilton County residents, not Fishers. Yeah, they're located here, and I helped them get money, and I helped them do a bunch of stuff in that new building. So again, I'm not saying anything about their chart or what they're doing as a not-for-profit. Has nothing to do with my decision. But I think we've kind of lost our way, and we're going down a path. Next thing you know, we're going to have 25 of them on there. You're going to be asking for more money coming out of the budget. To me, it's just a mess.
Brad?
As Pete said, a lot of churches do the food, and talking with Doug Allman, Fall Creek, his food pantry is full all the time. Just my subdivision, Britton Falls, we overload him every time.
Yeah.
And he says, so from that standpoint, Pete, I don't understand the need from what I hear from the churches and Fall Creek Township.
So when it comes to food insecurity in Fishers, I think that people don't know what it looks like in the suburbs. I went through HSC Engage.
So
and-
Tiffany, I don't mean to interrupt, but we're not allocating any money to food insecurity. That should be taken up as a separate item,
Sure,
because
but-
we're not talking about it during this particular item. So I'd like to stay on subject for this item. Deal with food insecurity later. I'm happy to talk to you about it, but we're not allocating $1 to food insecurity.
Correct.
So
But
let's stay on subject with the rest of what's going on there,
Yes,
because
sir. Yes, sir.
that's really where we need to be.
100%. But when those grant requests came in, the majority of them were looking at that. But I think that we don't have a good idea of what it looks like in our in our city. So because our schools do have unpaid lunches at the end of the year, that's a form of food insecurity. Also, the township trustees will tell you that there's a need for transportation, money for cars and things of that nature. So there are things that people are asking for that may be outside of the need in our community. And I think that was the biggest finding with our not-for-profit meeting.
Well,
I apologize for being off.
We gave recommendation to have everybody work together to really assess what our true needs are as it relates to the trustees, the food pantries, food insecurity. But for this item, we do need to vote on what's been recommended. Todd?
So I served on the nonprofit committee for a couple of years, and I thought the direction we were headed, and my comments are not, once again, not a shot at anybody on this list. I thought our direction was going toward whatever we felt in partnership with the administration were the focus points of the city to help fund those nonprofits. And so I feel like we're kind of still stuck. I think there's good heart behind this, so this is not a knock at anybody on the nonprofit, not a knock on the nonprofits themselves. The problem we run into with this is when we voice our opinion about something along this line, a negative thing, it can get twisted where we're against this nonprofit. Well, that's not the case at all. I agree that I don't think that our place is to go into a lot of different avenues because it would be endless. I think it'd be good to, partner with the administration, partner with the trustees, partner with the churches, figure out, hey, what are those specific those pillars? I think we talked about this before, the pillars in our community. One of those happened to be YMI, youth assistance, and we talked about that type of thing. But it does need to be primarily Fishers. It does need to be focused on our residents. If we're going to use Fishers tax dollars, it needs to go to Fishers residents. And I think it gets too convoluted when we have a lot of different organizations that are wonderful organizations. They are great organizations. But I think we need to focus on the blocking and tackling of what we're supposed to do with tax dollars. So I'll be a no on this. And it's not against the nonprofits.
Well, the city council, it's our task. We've had conversation with the administration. It falls on our responsibility to make those decisions. So, in years past and historically, we've been supportive of youth, of mental health, of seniors, disability, projects that are going on within our city. And I think this really, focuses on a lot of our needs that are not being met right now. But, if there is a will of the council to dissolve the non-for-profit, then we can do that. Because this is a delicate subject. Not everybody is going to agree. But if you look at the list and you really dive deep into this list, it really is serving a lot of the unmet needs of our community that people don't realize that we have.
And I don't doubt that one. I'm not arguing that one iota. So that's the problem with this is you see needs and I see needs and he sees needs, right? There's tons of needs in the community and also regionally. But I think what we have to be cautious with is we continue to set a precedent of trying to meet all the needs, and it's really small amounts of money that we can give, right? I mean, some of this stuff is really not life-changing with those organizations. If we can get a few and really focus on those few things, and then support with our own dollars, we're going and supporting the different things that we believe in and we feel like are making a difference in the community. Because all of these are. I'm not questioning any of these that are listed here that are very impactful to the community. I think this waters down the effectiveness and then it trickles the money outside of Fishers. And I think we need to focus on Fishers. So that's my only take behind this is I think it just needs solely focused on Fishers. And that's it.
It does, Todd, but I mean, if you really look at this, some of these, they just ask for that specific amount.
Right.
For various reasons, and so I respectfully,
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
your point of view. I think, John Weingart.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to this conversation, this is a good conversation. I mean, we're not always gonna agree on everything, and that's okay. I mean, there's 9 of us, and we're all gonna have opinions. But also, stepping back and look at the budget that we passed, this was a line item on the budget, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we're coming together as a committee, to make our recommendation on a budget item. I will encourage everyone, when we get to the budget this year, we have a little more conversation about this and decide what's the right thing to do as a council, and kind of take these suggestions back into place and make sure that we focus on that for the next budget coming up, because everyone saw this budget, everybody passed it, you knew it was a line item, you knew we were gonna have this conversation at some point.
And I just feel that the dollar amounts, you know what I'm saying, we budget an amount, absolutely. I just feel like taking those dollar amounts instead of making however many there are.
What
forward,
you're saying,
so
and I don't disagree, is we need to be more prescriptive about what we're doing.
that's what I agree with, yes.
Is
Yeah.
that a fair statement?
I think that's
Sure.
very fair.
But
And-
like I said, it looks like, we're giving crumbs when actually, we're actually giving them money that they had actually requested.
Sure.
For some of these are first-time programs within the school system and within our underserved communities, so,
And there, oh,
I
I'm sorry,
want to
just-
state that I have to abstain due to a board membership on this, so
okay.
just letting everyone know.
Any other discussion?
I was just going to say, John, to your point, a lot of what we chose, they were very, very specific in what they were asking for, and we were very purposeful not to fund like operating expenses or paying for people to employment. So we did focus on the true needs of the organizations. So just wanted to have that.
Bill Stewart is on line. I don't know, Bill, can you hear us? Do you want to share a comment or two? You're on the committee.
I tend, thank you. It's been a good debate, and I hear mostly what John is saying. This is a line item in the budget that was approved by the council, and it's our job to appropriate money for it. And we went through a very deliberate process. I'm on that committee, and one of the questions we asked, primarily at the top of mind, was are we serving the city of Fishers? And I think for most of these groups, the answer was yes. So I would encourage council to approve this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Well, if there isn't any more discussion, we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote.
What was I need a motion and a
Oh, we do have
second.
a motion, okay.
I make a motion to approve
No,
the
we didn't have a
not-for-profit
motion.
report as submitted.
Second.
Okay, motion by Tiffany Duplesson, second by Brad DeReamer. I'll now call for a roll
Okay.
call vote.
Cecilia Coble,
Aye.
Pete Peterson,
No.
John Weingart,
Aye.
Brad DeReamer,
Aye.
Selena Stoller,
Abstain.
Todd Zimmerman,
No.
Tiffany Duplesson,
Aye.
Bill Stewart.
Aye.
The vote was 5 yea, 2 nay, and 1 abstain. Motion passed.
So motion passes. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to the economic development portion of our agenda. Item 13 is R061724B. This is a request to approve an economic development agreement for Project Horseshoe. And we have Megan Baumgartner presenting this evening.
Thank you. Megan Baumgartner, Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Fishers. I have 2 items for us to discuss and thought that it'd be easiest to lump them in together. I've had a couple questions about this, and this is a really exciting project that has been codenamed Project Horseshoe. And so where I wanted to start with this was kind of setting the stage of what this company does in relation to some of these other companies that you've approved incentives for, and we've successfully recruited to Fishers. So we're starting with the pharmaceutical development process, so the drug discovery. We'll use the example of Lilly with Mounjaro, their weight loss and diabetes drug. Lilly goes through a drug discovery process, and this whole process between drug discovery, clinical trials, FDA review can take anywhere from 7 to 10 to 15 years, and it's a very lengthy process. One company that is involved locally in this extensive process is Genizen Labs, and so they are viral vector manufacturers, so they do small batches for clinical phase trials. So again, super long and very expensive process related to the overall pharmaceutical life sciences industry. Where we found a special niche within the city of Fishers that has a lot of stickiness to it is within the pharmaceutical manufacturing process specifically. So a drug goes through all of those processes that we originally, or what I had just shared about. They get their FDA approvals, and now it's time to manufacture it. So there's the initial formulation. A lot of those big companies, so Lilly in particular, their Boone County, their LEAP project, they're manufacturing that, their Mounjaro in-house, and it's super, super concentrated. The next step is they need to fill that. So they will oftentimes contract with a company, a contract development manufacturing organization, or a contract manufacturing organization to do that fill of the drug. So example here in Fishers is Incog Biopharma. So they came to Fishers in 2020, and they do the drug delivery, or I'm sorry, the drug filling process in that location. The next is the drug storage. So with Mounjaro, it has to be filled into something. So after the initial formulation happens, it's super concentrated. Incog needs a place that once they put that into specific doses, how they're going to storage, or how they will store that drug. And so that process is also here in Fishers, which is Stevanato Group. So our Italian Italian glass manufacturer just north of Incog on Cumberland Road. So they do sterile glass vials, syringes, cartridges. They do about 85% of glass vials around the world out of this facility. The next one, the next two phases of the drug delivery system and the logistics is the piece that Project Horseshoe is specializing in. And they are an international company that specializes in this. So they do the drug delivery system. So keeping with Mounjaro, there is an injector pin. There is a variety of different drug delivery systems that are usually done through plastic injection molding. That is what Project Horseshoe specializes in. And then the logistic piece of all of that. So getting that drug delivery system, they take the filled product of the Mounjaro from Incog in the glass vial that, or sterilized vial or cartridge that Stevanato has produced. All of that is assembled within Project Horseshoe and is then sent out for logistics. As you can imagine, this is an incredibly complicated and expensive process. And through the FDA, they now have a lot of requirements on them, as do many manufacturers, for sustainability efforts and a variety of different metrics that they have to meet. What we're now able to help round out in Fishers is this full final life cycle of the pharmaceutical manufacturing process. And again, these aren't with just small startup companies. Incog was, but they are now incredibly successful. We have international companies that are doing that right here in Fishers, and we have the ability to bring another one to Fishers. So just wanted to help set the stage of what they do and how they fit into the other companies that are here in Fishers. So again, they do the drug delivery systems, and then they provide the logistics for the delivery of those devices. So the facility that they're looking at is 12001 Exit 5 Parkway. That is the old Juno Lighting building. So where Exit 5 turns into 121st Street and Cumberland Road, it is a 130,000 square foot facility. If you remember, that has been vacant ever since Juno Lighting was acquired, and they offshored to Canada a lot of the positions that have been in there. So it's been sitting vacant for a while. Project Horseshoe will bring 350 new jobs to the city of Fishers by 2029. The great thing about this site is you can kind of see from the aerial, there's about 3.5 additional acres that they are really excited about because that has the potential to then expand this facility, which they feel is likely given the world today in drug delivery systems. Again, keeping on theme with our life sciences companies and the great salaries that they're providing, average salary of those 350 jobs will be $65,000 a year. And then they plan to invest $40 million into that facility. So all of that, we're now benefiting from filling up a vacant building, rounding out this entire process and really creating an international location, and I mean, a really great story for us. The incentives that are before you in this economic development agreement are a 10-year vacant building tax abatement. So that's what state statute allows us to abate the value of the building itself. Right now, that's about $80,000 a year since it has been vacant for so long. The value of the land, which is currently at $45,000, will continue to get taxed as it currently is. And then depending upon if they sign a 10 or a 15-year lease, we would match their personal property tax abatement at 100% over that time period. Most of their build out is the most expensive piece of theirs, so they do have a lot of equipment. But in terms of the scale of that abatement over a 15-year period, that would be a little over $3 million, so about $260,000 a year of benefit that would go towards them. So the item for the EDA, we're requesting approval of that. And then we're also requesting on the follow-up resolution for the declaratory resolution for council to start the abatement process for that building. Happy to answer any questions about either of these two items.
Thank you, Megan. I'm always impressed by the quality of companies that are coming and wanting to come here to Fishers, and so I'm really excited about this project and the fact that we're utilizing a vacant building and, you know, getting a quality company. I'm really excited. What was in the facility before?
Geno Lighting.
Yeah, so they did
Okay.
assembly of commercial lighting fixtures. So it's a big open warehouse right in there right now, so they'll have to do some significant build out for lab spaces, similar to what INCOG, Genizen Labs, Seven Auto have all done to be able to produce sterile drug delivery devices.
I think one way to think about this is we're taking a building that prior was probably low hourly rate jobs, doing, you know, basic manual labor assemblage of light fixtures, and turning it into kind of a state-of-the-art life science facility that fills an ecosystem of life science that makes us even more attractive for more life science companies to come here, and taking the hourly wage from $18 an hour to $50-some an hour, which is just an extraordinary opportunity, especially with a building that's sat vacant for over 5 years. So that's quite a momentum gain for us as we move
Look
on.
at the connectivity of all these businesses connecting
They're
together.
literally, you could throw a football
Yeah.
between
Yeah,
any
this
one
is-
of them.
So
This
on
is
the,
exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
and John, to that point, on the aerial that's up there, so Seven Auto is the largest building on the furthest northern part of that, so that's our Life Science and Innovation Park. Just south of there where it says Delaware Commons, that's INCOG's facility, so they have room for additional expansion. And then where Project Horseshoe will hopefully land, all in very, very, very close proximity.
One of the most exciting and attractive components of this is many of these large life science companies have environmental targets that they're trying to hit in terms of carbon emission reduction. Well, they can count the short distance now that they have to take their material from one building to the next. Before, they might be transporting that across the country. Now they're literally transporting it across the road. They view that as a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and they can count that towards their overall corporate goals. So that has been something that's extremely attractive and has been building more and more momentum. And we really feel like the entire state is trying to create a life science manufacturing ecosystem right here in your community. We've got the vast majority of those building blocks now committed and underway in short order here in the city.
That's great. Any more questions or comments?
Yeah, Megan, Project Horseshoe is signed off on these incentives?
So they will take this, they are taking their full incentive package to their board in July, where they should get formal approval. I will say that none of this moves forward unless they sign a lease at this facility. So this is our good faith effort to put this in front of them that makes it a very easy decision for them for their board
But
to
at least the
approve.
people that you've been talking to about that know what these incentives are.
Oh, absolutely,
And they're not
yeah.
walking away saying that isn't enough, or that's not gonna get there.
No.
You're trying to judge council first and then take it to them?
Correct.
So, okay.
Yep, so we've negotiated these incentives with them. They're fully aware of that and
And
very, very appreciative
I do
of
think
it.
it's important for you to know that we were competing toe-to-toe with North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
So this is not, you know, we were very much competing with other locations that have a lot of momentum behind them. And we really do think speed to the market taking this step tonight demonstrates that you're all serious and we're serious, and we are their number one choice at the moment, and we want to go to the board and close that deal, as in Pete Peterson terms. We want to close the deal and remove any kind of barrier that might be there to have them say yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by John Weingart, second by Pete Peterson. Can we get a roll call vote, please? All those in favor say aye.
John Weingart,
Aye.
Cecilia Coble,
Aye.
Pete Peterson,
Yes.
Brad DeReamer,
Aye.
Selena Stoller,
Aye.
Todd Zimmerman,
Aye.
Tiffany Ditlison,
Aye.
Bill Stewart.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, motion passes. Item 14 and 15, like Megan said, are related to this. R061724C is the request to approve the declaratory resolution for 12001 Exit 5 Parkway, and then item 15 is R061724D. That's the request to approve the annual abatement.
I'll make a motion to approve item 14.
Second.
Motion by Pete Peterson, second by Selena Stoller. Could we have a roll call vote? All those in favor say aye.
John Weingart,
Aye.
Cecilia Coble,
Aye.
Pete Peterson,
Yes.
Brad DeReamer,
Aye.
Selena Stoller,
Aye.
Todd Zimmerman,
Aye.
Tiffany Ditlison,
Aye.
Bill Stewart.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great, motion passes. Now we'll move on to item 15. Is there a motion to
So moved.
approve the annual abatement compliance?
Second.
So Pete Peterson motion to approve the abatement compliance, and John Weingart second. All those in favor say aye, please.
John
Roll
Weingart,
call vote.
Aye.
Cecilia Coble,
Aye.
Pete Peterson,
Yes.
Brad DeReamer,
Aye.
Selena Stoller,
Aye.
Todd Zimmerman,
Aye.
Tiffany Ditlison,
Aye.
Bill Stewart. Bill Stewart.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Good job,
Okay.
Jordan.
Motion passes, congratulations. All right, we're moving on to planning and zoning, item 6. It's 052024D. This is a request to approve the right-of-way vacation of Moore Lane between Lantern Road and Moore Street. And there's some other streets there. And this requires a public hearing. Ross Hillary will be presenting this evening.
Thank you, President. For the record, Ross Hillary, Planning and Zoning Director, City of Fishers. Before you again is ordinance 052024D, which is the request to approve the right-of-way vacation for Moore Lane between Lantern Road and Moore Street, Maple Street between 116th Street and South Street, and the old Lantern Road right-of-way. All that falls within the Cumberland Addition subdivision. This is for the City View development. Lots 5 through 12 was recently vacated at Plat Committee alongside the approval of the new plat for City View. As you mentioned tonight is a required public hearing, and staff recommends approval as presented. Happy to answer any questions.
Can you remind me just a little bit about City View?
Sure. So on the map here, you can see the City View project is located right along Lantern and 116th Street. It is a new proposed senior 55-plus apartment building. It'll also have some first-floor retail and restaurants that we'll see moving forward here soon.
Thank you.
And a parking garage.
Are there any questions by other city council members? If not, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this vacation, right-of-way vacation, please come forward to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes. Seeing that no one has come up to be part of the public hearing, we'll close the public hearing. Motion by Pete.
Second.
Second by Selena Stoller. All those in favor say aye. We'll take a roll call vote.
Cecilia Coble,
Aye.
Pete Peterson,
Yes.
John Weingart,
Aye.
Brad DeReamer,
Aye.
Selena Stoller,
Aye.
Todd Zimmerman,
Aye.
Tiffany Ditlison,
Aye.
Bill Stewart.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Motion passes, okay. We're moving on to item 17, 061724. This is a consideration of a text amendment of the UDO for the creation of a new commercial low-impact district and a commercial low-impact overlay district. And Ross Hillary is here to present.
Thank you. For the record, Ross Hillary, City of Fishers. The slide does say 061721, that should say 24. This ordinance 061724 is the proposed amendment to the UDO, which would create a new zoning district called the Commercial Low Impact District, as well as an overlay district with the same name. Staff has identified 32 initial parcels along 116th Street, along 126, along 96, and Brook School Road, which are current residential parcels that may be considered undesirable in the future to remain residential. The creation of this new overlay district would allow for the existing zoning to remain in place, but when and if a rezone is requested, that base zoning would be this new low-impact zoning district. The commercial impact zoning district uses the C1 commercial zoning district as its base. It does have additional limitations, which includes the limit of use, including office, medical office, hair salon, day spa, and nail salon, which would be allowed, but also has several development standard restrictions, including the height, the square footage, architecture requirements, parking, lighting, signage, and hours of operations. And these were all taken from notes with recent rezones, including the Moore Dentistry, Magnolia Grove, and Drive Planning that you guys have seen in the recent years. We've had one neighborhood meeting already in May, and staff will have at least one additional neighborhood meeting in July for those 32 parcels that we have identified. The C1 allowed uses that are not being included in this includes assisted living, group nursing homes, utilities, daycares, and indoor animal care. Staff is happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ross. Are there any questions for Ross about the overlay?
I have a few questions. So I know this doesn't capture all of the properties. What percentage of the properties does it capture, and what's the plan for the properties outside of this?
That's a good question. I'm not sure of the percentage that it captures, but we looked across the city at all those major corridors to see which parcels kind of met that criteria. And I'd say we're looking at about a fourth of the ones that we identified. So I would intend in the future, these are the ones we thought were most prevalent or most needed to be taken care of first. And there's opportunities in the future to add additional parcels to the overlay district. But I can find that out, what percentage it has with those residential parcels adjacent to the right-of-way.
Anybody else? Comments, questions?
Have first reading.
First reading. Thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to regular items. Under item 18, any unfinished or new business. John Weingart had a
I just want to make a comment,
comment.
just for 30 seconds. And, sometimes, 4 years ago, we were in a very difficult time. We're going through a pandemic. We had a very difficult time as a community, as a country. And, but good things come out of some things that are very difficult. One of the good things that came out of it, we established a health department. And Monica put together this annual report. And what an outstanding department it is, and how we deliver really great services to our community. And the one thing I'm really proud of, she does it in what I call the Fisher's way. I give real value at a very low cost. You look at the rate you're charging our taxpayer, it's a lower rate than the rest of Hamilton County, and we give a much better product, a much better service to our community. So I just want to say thank you for everything you've done and what you went through to get us here. We're really proud of this, and I'm really proud of this report you've given us tonight, so thank you.
I'd like to add on to that, Monica. Thank you so much for having the restaurants post their ABC. That is just fantastic. That really helps the public, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback on that, so thank you very much for doing that.
Great job, Monica, and you and your staff and the whole team there. We're moving on to item 19, community comment. We did receive some public comments before the meeting, and those were distributed to the city council members, and it was put in the record. And anyone wishing to speak this evening, please come forward to the mic. Please state your name and address for the record. You'll have about 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, I'm Ross Reinhardt, 7704 Creekside Court. First of all, it's just really amazing to be in this new space with everybody tonight. Yeah, as you know, I like to get around places and Fishers on my bike, but I'm also a frequent user of legs, both for transportation and recreationally. And so as a part of that, I'm really thankful for the efforts of the city to do the panel replacement on the sidewalks recently in our area and remove a lot of the toe catches. That was absolutely amazing. Something that's going on right now, I'd like to share a little frustration with and a potential solution. Right now we have repaving with the ADA ramp project going on in our neighborhood. And something that's been a bit of a frustration I found after they've gone in is that the ramps never line up with the sidewalks. So and if you're walking or running somewhere, you end up coming to an intersection and having to decide if you walk through the dirt and grass or if you're going to follow the labyrinth of the offset ramps. I think that's something that we're not getting our money's worth in the project. I think the ADA ramps is an important thing, but I think a potential solution that we could, well, I tried to educate myself on why it was that way, and from what I could tell, it has to do with the pitch of the ramps needing to be a certain way and the way they meet the roadway. And so one potential solution I think we could do that would help us accomplish more of our goals for the same money would be to experiment with bumping the curbs out farther to make the space for a gradual ramp in a way that it could still be in line with the sidewalk. So we're preserving that pedestrian experience. Right now, I can tell you it's really frustrating when you hit those and having to make that decision. I think it would also help us more towards our goal of accessibility because then you don't have to navigate offset ramps that can be a little bit of a maze. And I think it'll also promote safety overall because right now I've been observing where they've been put in, people start to walk and run more in the roadway because they don't want to have to go through all the turns. It also, if we do the bump outs, it reduces the amount of roadway you have to walk across in the intersection, which promotes safety, and it signals to drivers through the narrowing of the roadway that it's a good place to slow down as well. So I think those curb bump outs might be a potential way for us to get more for our dollar in that way.
Thank you for your comments. We actually have Ross Hillary here this evening, our ADA coordinator, and so if he can get your contact information, we'll look into that, and he'll get back with you on what the reason is behind all that. Thank you for your comments.
Thanks so much.
One bit of good news on the sidewalk. I think we had an infrastructure meeting last week, Elliot, and I think we got really good pricing on our sidewalk replacement, and we're optimistic that we'll be able to do even more this year with the current contract that we have. So I think there's a few other neighborhoods that we might be able to actually go in and replace all of their sidewalks, which is quickly closing in on, I think, 12 or 13 neighborhoods where we've gone in and completely dealt with all the toe kicks and sidewalk challenges. So that's a huge step forward for our city compared to where we were. I think so far we've replaced well over I want to say like 12 or 1,300 panels.
In addition to our in-house effort
Yeah.
as well.
So we're making some dents, but we'll definitely follow up with Ross and our engineering team on this concern.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak this evening?
I have another question. I know that Mr. Colby is not here, but could we have a private road update?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to ask.
Sure.
All right.
Well, and Lindsay, chime in here if I get anything wrong, but our first ever Barrett Law process is really working its way through. If you've gone up on State Road 37, the two roads that parallel on both the east and west side, one is completely done or almost completely done, and the other one is well underway. And we hope to have the construction done by late this summer, and then we'll move into the financing piece of it and figure out what the actual allocation of each cost will be to the individual property owners along that way. And then that'll really complete the first private road discussion we've had from the commercial side. When you're talking about 116th and Allisonville, we're working on that discussion more broadly as we think about how we are going to work our construction project at 116th and Allisonville. So that will probably be a 2025 conversation. But I'm proud of the work that Lindsay and the engineering team have done on this to do those two roads. If you've ever been by Pinheads or over by the other side of 37, we're in really bad shape, and they're much better today because of the work that's been done. On the neighborhood front, we haven't had a lot of takers that want to move into having their roads turned over to the city yet, but we're open to that discussion and we'll continue to pursue it where appropriate.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
could offer, my neighborhood, we had the sidewalks done, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. I can walk again, I can be
Good.
on my phone, I don't have to worry about tripping and falling. I do have an ADA ramp in front of my house, Ross, and the grass that the city uses is clover,
Oh, clover, huh?
a big bag of clover, so.
Well, we'll have to look into that. If Mecky was here today, that he'd be the one taking the bullets, but we'll follow up.
Lots of clover.
Gotcha.
Okay, if there is no one else wishing to speak, I'm going to go ahead and
Motion
close
to
the
adjourn.
comment. Community comment, motion by Pete Peterson, second by John Weingart. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.